Boom! What up, my guys? Welcome to another show, Thursday Night Football. It's NFL Talk with Jay Money and the Shark. We got to get the vibes going. Got to bring the intro, man. That's the main thing with NFL, right? Shark just gets people so hyped up. Everybody loves watching it, loves betting it, and we wanted to try to make some cash with this shit, man. What's up with you, Shark? Everything cool with you, my guy?
Absolutely. Beautiful, beautiful day here up in the Northeast. Of course, Thursday, the first day of fall, September 22nd, 2022. As Jay said, football is about energy, hype, and we want to bring it to you at the highest level. We're going to go through tonight's game. We got an official play, run through the card. Jay Money, lead the way, and let's get into it.
Man, let's get into it. I appreciate everybody in the chat as well. I always say respect people's time. I appreciate you guys' time for coming in here and watch the show. You could be doing whatever else in this beautiful world, but you're here trying to get some cash with us. We appreciate you guys. If you can, hit the like button, subscribe, and share on your social media outlets. If you see the tweet, man, if you can, just share us a retweet. Trying to get as many people in here. Break you guys off with free picks, my guys. Let's try to get as many people in here as possible. Now, Thursday Night Football, my guys. You got the Cleveland Browns laying 4.5 points versus the Pittsburgh Steelers here. Total of 38-39 here. Basically, you got the Browns coming off that insulting loss there, right, versus the Jets. Steelers coming off a bad loss as well versus the Patriots over there, Shark. Divisional teams here. I believe Steelers beat them both times last year as well. You like some in this game, my brother?
I do. On a suddenly not so casual Thursday, September 22nd, 2022. We are going road locker room in the division. Short week, Pittsburgh Steelers plus 4.5, 1 unit. Jay said it. Let's talk about it. This is psychology at its finest, and it's detailed psychology. We talk about this all the time in all different sports. A loss is not just a loss. Every loss is constructed differently. If you look at what happened to Pittsburgh last week, Pittsburgh was a home underdog against New England, and they lost the game basically right on the number. So basically what was supposed to happen, happened. But if you look at Cleveland gave a game away in absolute historical meltdown fashion. And I was just thinking about this in terms of trying to describe it to people in their actual life, because I saw a lot of people capping this, saying this is a bounce back for Cleveland. They're going to be angry. I completely and utterly disagree. This reminds me of in college. You put 2 or 3 weeks into a term paper. You put all your effort into it. You write it. You're up all night for 2 straight weeks. You're ready to go. You do all the work. You nailed it. And then your computer crashes and you lose the entire fucking thing. Are you pissed off to do it again 2 days later, the whole thing? Hell no. You basically won the whole game. You did your whole project and you have nothing to show for it. You got robbed, and you didn't get robbed by the man on the street. You got robbed by yourself in the case of the Cleveland Browns, who gave the game away. Nick Chubb could have gone down at the goal line. He went into the end zone. Of course, nobody's expecting 2 unanswered touchdowns inside of 90 seconds, but it happened. This team is looking in the mirror saying, how did we let that game get away? We needed that one for our long-term record without Deshaun Watson. This is not where they come back super hyped up and jacked of a blowout, insulting loss. That is self-questioning. That is self-confusion. That is, what the hell are we doing, guys? And you go to the other side of this game again. Pittsburgh comes in here. Go back to week 1. Pittsburgh did travel effectively within the division on the road. Of course, an overtime win at Cincinnati on a similar figure, an underdog between 3 and 6 points. And one final point, line functionality, as we talked about at the NBA, does not apply to football that closely. But if it does apply within the division specifically. If you go back to last year, Cleveland did lose at home 15-10 to the Steelers. Cleveland was laying 5 points there. Then they went on the road, so you assume 3 points. It should have held at 2.5. It did come down to 1, which was short, and Pittsburgh got them again, 26-14. Now coming home, double revenge off a road 1. It should come in open 4.5. It opened at 2.5. It is short in the line functionality model, and it is short for all these reasons. Official play. Beautiful evening for it. On the road, Pittsburgh Steelers plus 4.5, 1 unit.
Yeah, I couldn't talk you off, man. It's a tough game for me. I don't like the fact that the Browns are coming in pissed off in this one. Obviously, both teams are probably coming in pissed here. It's a huge divisional game for both teams. I'm sure the Browns didn't see them losing that game last week versus the Jets, but they did. Did see that they had a defensive meeting. They had a meeting based on that going down defense. Just like, what the fuck is going on? I'll tell you, it's one thing that's keeping me off the game. Me personally, guys, I always say we don't have to bet every game. Personally, I don't. I always say you guys could do whatever you want. Me personally, I just pick and choose my spots. I don't like the fact that it's double revenge for the Browns from last year. I don't like that. They do have Jadeveon Clowney's out. I know that Garrett did practice. He is supposed to play today, so they still have him. But defense is it's a tad bit banged up. But I'm not buying the Steelers here. I took them in week one. I'm very low on this team this year. Week one was a spot play for me. I'm not so sure on the Steelers this year. Not saying they can't cover this game, but personally, with my own power ratings, I'm not very high on this team this year. So it's a hard pass for me, Shark. I hope you cash it. I definitely could see the Steelers losing this game by 3 points, but it also wouldn't surprise me to see, like I say, the Browns win by 3 as well. But there would be still a cover for the Steelers over there. Tough game for me. I usually, especially in NFL, I'm not betting against the double revenge, Shark.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Obviously, there's a counterpoint to every game, particularly in the NFL, where they don't play a lot of games. There's always something going on the other side of the locker room gap there. But when I do look at what's going on here, again, you look at what's gone on with the Steelers so far: 23-20 in overtime, 17-14 in regulation, 2 3-point games. And one thing that I think you and I discussed briefly off the record last week: there's just extreme parity in football right now. There's a few real top level teams: Buffalo, Kansas City. But 20 to 30 teams, like 20 to 25 teams are super close to each other. So I think, just as a general snapshot, when you're capping professional football this year, the underdog is going to have a lot of value because there's just going to be so many tight games, particularly when you're getting it outside of a field goal. So I just think that's a large scale market comment. But these are tight games. You're going to see them across the grid. And this week is a snapshot to it. So many lines right around 3-4 points.
Yeah, that's a good point there. It's definitely a damn good point. I can say I'm not laying the points with Brissett either, guys. And little inside info, he did injure his ankle in the last quarter of the last game, so he may not be as mobile as he used to be. That's just I just let you guys know what I'm saying. What I learned throughout the week. Brissett's ankle could be a little bit injured there. We know that Jadeveon Clowney's out. It's a tough game. Just real simple for me, guys. I usually with the Thursday night games, I take either the home team that didn't have to travel much, or either I usually stay off the game unless it's something that's really holding me to that away team, guys. So everybody on the Steelers, hey, I hope you cash it. I don't have anything on it. I hope you take those fucking Bucs to Smack City, my guys. Let's go over here to the street to some Sunday games here. Now we got the New England Patriots getting 3 points, /2.5. It was at 3, Shark. Now back down, down to 2.5. So some Patriots get some sharp love here. I don't think it'll matter. I see Ravens winning this one by at least a touchdown. I'd be looking towards the Baltimore Ravens in this particular spot, Shark.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree. I mean, you do look at what the Ravens did in week one at the AFC East, which we had correctly: Baltimore -6.5 at New York Jets. Similar travel spot. And again, this is slightly different than what Cleveland did last week. Of course, Baltimore did give away the game, but I think that Baltimore, their team, their mentality, Lamar Jackson, John Harbaugh, these guys, I think they will be more pissed off. And I do think a key point here, and I do want to tie this back into this Cleveland game because there's just so many psychological angles going on here. When you really melt off a game in your home stadium, it's good for you to get on the road and get out of that stank environment. And that's what the Ravens are doing. The Ravens are getting out of that. I mean, really, because that had a shitty vibe after that game. And Cleveland has to stay there for 3 days and think about it. So I think that Baltimore psychologically will be at an advantage point going on the road. Of course, New England, home opener, 2 road games, 2 low scoring, sort of whatever type of games. Historically, Lamar Jackson has played the Patriots twice in his career. He did lose the last one. I believe it was 2 years ago. Cam Newton was the quarterback for the Patriots. And that was his one-off there. And then the previous year, the Ravens did get the Patriots big time at home, 37-20, an absolute blowout. 5 out of the last 6 matchups in New England between these teams were won by New England. I believe all of them were one-possession games. This game will be tighter than people think. I think the Patriots are scrappy. It's a tough crowd. It's loud. It's tough travel. I think we don't really know what to make of Mac Jones. And obviously, the second campaign, I said training wheels last week. training wheels seem to be on. They're not really giving him a whole lot. Last week, one long deep ball, Nelson Aguilar on the sideline. That was more just a prayer and a hell of a catch by Aguilar. I wouldn't talk you off. I don't love the game. I think it's going to be a tight one.
Yeah, no, I can see it. Like I say, sharp money coming on the Patriots here from 3 down to 2.5. I don't think it'll matter. I'd be looking towards the Ravens in this one. Not sure that. Let me just put it this way: if Ravens get the 28 points, we don't see enough offense for the Patriots here, guys. They're a defensive type of team. If they do win this game, it'll be an ugly type of game. Hold Lamar Jackson at the helm. But one thing that can beat Belichick's defense is our mobile quarterback there. So did lose the last time, like you said, in 2020, a few years ago. I feel like the Ravens will be ready for this one. Also, a team coming off a bad loss as well, Shark. So I'd be leaning towards the Baltimore Ravens here, minus the 2.5, minus the 3, my guys. And guys in the chat as well, man, they popping off in the chat. Breaking off their with their props, with their totals, with their looking at their betting derivatives, all type of stuff, man. We appreciate you guys in the chat. We're all a community. We're trying to cash it together, my guys. Apparently, somebody bought Ty in there with a lock. Apparently, he says, guys, don't take the Steelers. So apparently, he got a lock of the week with the Browns there. You never know, my guys. Let's go over here to the streets of Miami here. Sorry, we alluded to the Dolphins with a huge comeback. We got to be honest here. The Dolphins are getting smacked in that first half versus the Ravens. I always say, when you take your foot off the gas, this is what these new age players, this never used to happen so often in the old days. When you take your foot off the gas, it's kind of hard to get back into the game, right, Shark? You almost have to win 2 games because now you're taking off. You got to get back. It's hard to get back up for a game. But the Dolphins, they came all the way back. Now kind of sort of coming off an emotional high. 2-0 teams here, Shark. The Bills, won the last 6 meetings? You like anything in this game?
No, I really don't. I think this game is really tough. I think you're getting what's going to be a championship style of game potentially. Last year, Buffalo did hammer them twice, 35-0 in Miami early season, and slightly later on, 26-11 up in Orchard Park. But regardless, 2 double-digit emphatic wins. So you get a double revenge game. And you said they lost 6 in a row, so you get a huge generational bye theoretically. But you also get a Miami team who is scorching hot here, 10-1 in their last 11 ball games. You get Buffalo, who's the class of the league. Buffalo is not necessarily showcasing letdown anytime soon. And, I do correlate this to the Golden State Warriors before they had won a title. And they were really in the regular season to prove something. The best time to bet teams in professional sports are young professional teams before they've won a championship because they are ultra focused to dominate the regular season. And of course, after they win a championship, oftentimes the regular season becomes unimportant. But right now, the Buffalo Bills are absolutely locked in. I don't see a letdown coming. And again, last year, notorious travel spot in Miami, terrible heat, a lot of distractions, whatever, 35-0. Right. I mean, this is a professional unit. Josh Allen is unfazed by anything. The kid is a hell of an athlete. He's a gunslinger. I mean, when we really look back at historical NFL prototypes, this guy is up there with the best of all time, just as a pure body and arm. It's hard to fade Buffalo. It's a shortish line given the history of this matchup. I think you're really gambling here. I think this is a game that if you really want to just have some beer and watch, you're going to watch a hell of a football game, and the sweat is going to be very, very real on this number.
Yeah, this is a tough one for me. It was at 6 and I was at 6.5. It's since come down, if I'm not mistaken. So line opened up at 4.5, did touch 6. Now you see back down to 5.5 and 1.5 showing out there at Bet Online. So I always say, guys, make sure you're line shopping. If you're trying to take points, if you're trying to get the underdog, make sure you're getting as most as you can. And if you're laying points, make sure you land as less as possible, guys. It could come into play, especially with the key numbers in football. Personally, I won't be betting against the Bills unless they are starting to get a little banged up, a few injuries, but unless there's a major injury, guys, this is a one-way team for me. I said it before the season starts. I fully believe that the Bills can win the Super Bowl this year. Doesn't mean they're going to win every game, but it does mean that they're a top dog. Shark alluded to as well. They hadn't won a Super Bowl. They did get Von Miller over there, so some Super Bowl championship experience. I think these guys have their eyes. They got their eyes on the prize, guys. I can't tell you guys, but I'm not betting against the Bills in any situation right now, unless they have a major injury or a major matchup or look ahead spot, because they're going to come. There's going to be times to fade Buffalo, but simply put, I just don't think it's right now. Not saying they'll cover for sure, but I hope it makes sense. Sometimes you just kind of stay away from fading the team. It's like fading Alabama every week in college football. Why would you do it? Just stay away from their games. Either you're taking them or you're staying off. I'm just trying to make sense, my guys. I hope it makes sense. Let's go over here to the streets of New York real quick, guys. Went live on Monday, gave you guys a trifecta spot. We're on Bengals first quarter -0.5 plus 104. Bengals first half -3. Full game -4.5. I still like the -6. Even I'll go official at the current number, but I didn't bet it. I hope that makes sense. I see the Cincinnati Bengals win this game by 2 touchdown plus. I also took first half team total over 12.5 as well. Definitely see them getting 2 touchdowns. I think they're going to have 2 touchdowns right out of the gate in the first quarter, but definitely will take that. It's a really good bet for first half. I like full game team total over. I see Bengals offense busting out here. Saw some in the second half versus the Cowboys where they're going to these quick passes with Higgins and Chase over there like they supposed to do anyway. That kind of negates them having the bad offensive line, guys. You can get the ball out quick. It doesn't matter. It's when you have those long developing plays and Burrow has to stand in the pocket. I also see a huge letdown from the Jets as well. They did beat the Bengals last year, obviously a bit better Bengals team, but they were simply looking ahead past the Jets. And I'm glad it happened because this time they won't. They're pissed off. They're 0-2, facing basically 0-3. I see the Bengals coming out here high. Trifecta smack city spot here for the Bengals, chart.
Yeah, and I want to give a shout, Molecular Ninja. Thank you for that tip. Big time stuff, brother. Great energy. We love to give you guys top looks, angles, and of course the energy. And there's not a lot of energy in this world, unfortunately. We try to bring it to you alongside sports commentary and the top level of picks in football and of course basketball. Staying centered here with the Cincinnati Bengals. You know, I wouldn't talk you off this game. I like the Bengals in this position. I've said this a couple times though on record. I'm a little worried the Bengals are just lifestyle procrastinators. This is just what they do. They just, for some reason, just think, okay, we're going to backdoor every week. They just don't come out firing. I don't know. And again, I'm not giving bad energy to this play. I'm just speaking the facts of this is just what Joe Burrow does. I think that they will get there at 4.5, 6 late. I'm a little worried early. I do think, Jay, next week against the Dolphins, you're going to get the Dolphins coming off the Bills spot, traveling to Cincinnati. Cincinnati comes home off a road sequence. That is really going to be a Cincinnati spot for me. I probably will be on Cincinnati for the game here, though. I do think the Jets showcasing an inability to compete within this type of environment against the AFC North in week 1 with Baltimore. And, of course, as you mentioned, Cincinnati last week laid the ultimate egg against Cooper Rush. They just weren't motivated. They did not bring any energy. And it was just, I mean, a pure insult to professional football, really, if we're being honest. So they have to bounce back. The Jets have showcased nothing. Again, the Jets should have lost the game by 14 last week. The Jets are so unbelievably fortunate to have won and covered that game. Jets are an absolute bottom feeder this year, particularly without Zach Wilson at the quarterback position. Wouldn't talk you off. I'll probably be official on the game on Sunday.
Yeah, they get Zach Wilson back next week. Molecular Ninja, I appreciate you so much, my brother. First of all, you're in here every single show. Then you always show love, and then you come in and bring a tip whenever you can, bro. I really appreciate you, my guy. We got a new member as well, man. Victor, new member to the chat. The members, well, I'll explain it later. We may get to some member stuff, but for now, it's just you can become a member. There's nothing special about it. It's just it may come into play though at some point. But for the last thing I'll say for this game, you're getting pissed off versus complacent. What do bad teams do when they finally get a win? They'll go out and party heavy, guys. We've seen it before with the Jets as well. I see these guys not really like I always talk about football. During the week practice, I want the team pissed off, trying to get somewhere, not come out there bullshitting around. You see what I'm saying? Probably like the Jets are. Are they going to want to try to win the game? They are. But I like the mindset of the Bengals in this one more. I do like this. This is one where I like early even more because if they don't get off to a good start, then they'll likely get smacked up again. They're tired of playing from behind. When I'm listening to the quotes. That's their main thing. It's coming out with a better start. They know they've been lackluster, but also they faced 2 really good defenses as well in the Steelers and the Cowboys. It was a clear letdown versus the Cowboys. Probably thought that it was going to be easy. You know how it is. Still almost won the game. I like the matchups here versus this Jets defense a lot. We know that they'll be working on the offensive line all week as well. Trifecta spot. First ever NFL. Bengals. First quarter. First half. Full game. Also, first half team total over 12.5. Let's go 4-0. One time, my guys. Let's go over here to the streets of Carolina here. Got the Panthers getting 3 points and basically an 0-2 spot. Same thing with the Bengals. I like to back 0-2 teams in the NFL. I'm not backing this one, but just thought process wise, it's damn near a must-win spot. Got the Panthers here at the house, Shark, in the 0-2 spot. Basically must win. Winston not looking good over there. Should we trust the Saints laying 3 on the road here?
No. My top play of the week is Carolina Panthers at +3, 2 units. And as Jay said, you're backing an 0-2 team, but there's a lot more going on here. I had said this last week before they played the Giants. I think they're going to be real tight against the money line all year. It's just who they are versus the league. This team is not going to blow a lot of teams out, and they're not going to get blown out by a lot of teams either. They're going to be in a lot of tight games. So just as a general point, when you get +3 at home, you're in an advantageous line position. And you go back to the previous 2 weeks. I mean, this is situational stuff. Home opener against Cleveland. You get Baker against his old team. You get his old team coming in there with equal motivation to show Baker, we can ball without you. Right. And you saw the way the game played out. It was extremely tight. 2 field goals, I believe, in the last 2 minutes of the game, and they lost 26-24. Dead out coin flip. Then they went on the road, and we talked about this last week. I had said I thought the Giants would get there. I think the Giants were an upstart team. The offense is rejuvenated under Dable, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I thought it was a bit of a trap off the big Cleveland matchup and then coming home in the division in the next game. So that's what they did. And they lost another tight one. Graham Gano, 56-yard field goal. I mean, the guy's a hell of a kicker, but that game could have been tied. A lot of kickers will miss that kick. So the Giants ran a little hot in a small window against them. And we talk about this all the time in terms of just statistical dispersion points. It's not so much football anymore. It's actually just math and it's data. When you lose 2 coin flips, now you're pretty due to win a coin flip. And if you're going to win a coin flip, you're probably going to do it in the division, where last year, early season, Jameis Winston came into Carolina and played absolutely horrendous football. 26-7 win for Carolina. Sam Darnold was the quarterback. Came back a little later. Taysom Hill was the quarterback at that point in time. Sean Payton's some allegiant boy of something. I'll never figure that out. Anyway, 18-10 New Orleans. So you get a revenge game. As we mentioned, within the division, the line does tell you a story. It should be about 3. It's a little short. At home, New Orleans was laying 7 points. This opened up at 3. It's getting steamed down by Sharps. It's 1 point short. And again, if you look at what New Orleans has put on record so far this year, really lackluster showing on the road in the division at Atlanta week 1. And then really just useless football again against Tom Brady and the boys last week at home, where they had owned Tom Brady and they just couldn't do anything offensively. I mean, we're talking about just really, really just flat scheme. And I mentioned this numerous times with the coach, Dennis Allen. I don't really perceive this guy to be a big energy guy in the locker room, which definitely is a thing. You need to inspire the group. I don't feel like they're very inspired. And I think you really get a Carolina where you want them here. L2 coming home off a loss, divisional game, revenge divisional game where New Orleans will not travel well. 2 unit special +3 Carolina.
Yeah, and Winston, man, guys, we got inside info that his back's not 100%. He still can play, but I don't even know if that matters. Guys, I don't think he's a good quarterback, man. Maybe once was, but I think his prime is definitely past him. I mean, he's always been liable to throw 3 picks a game, but it's just like, I get it, you're down and you got to force plays, but I just don't like the reads, man. I'm not a football expert, but I did play football, man, and I know how to look at the game. And some of these passes guys making it, they should never leave your hand. Like literally, it shouldn't leave. Like, what's your thought process to say? Always pause the game and see, like, what was the guy thinking, especially the quarterback? What was he thinking on his play? No, bro. It's got thrown into triple coverage and shit. Panthers are nothing for me here, Shark. I like the 0-2 and teams at the house. I'll probably end up riding with you on this one, man. It's really because I'm not a buyer of the Saints at all right now. I'm not super heavy on the Panthers, but this is a game to save their season. If they don't win this game, you'll probably see Rule get fired, like literally after the game, guys. Don't be a bit surprised. He's definitely on the hot seat over here. Let's go over here to the streets of Minnesota. We got the Vikings laying 6 points versus the Lions. Vikings looked really good versus the Packers. They looked absolutely terrible versus the Eagles on Monday Night Football. Now people are probably going to start to overreact. I cashed a nice size wager on the Lions last week, so I love the team. But when I look at this game, it's over. I see over. Lions are a dead nuts over team. The defense looked better last year, but their offense is literally elite right now, especially if Swift keeps running like that. Vikings offense can be elite. I see them bouncing back in a huge way. I don't play totals, but I'd be looking at the over in this one, Sharp.
Yeah, I wouldn't talk you off that. I mean, I think you look at Minnesota first 2 games, 2 unders, very lackluster offensive football, twice against the Packers and on the road, Monday night at Philadelphia. So you come back, they should score more points. And I think, as you mentioned, Detroit's defense is just a young group. There's just no way around it. It's not so much a lack of talent; it's just a very, very young group. They do have some veterans, but it's core centric and very young, and they haven't defended the ball at all. You go back to last year. I think this is going to be a point where you're going to want to buy Minnesota this week. Minnesota last year went 0-2 ATS against Detroit, and Detroit won their first game last year against Minnesota. I believe they were 0-10 at the time, and they got Minnesota. So Minnesota is going to remember that. We were the assholes that lost to the fucking 0-10 team last year, and now we get revenge on that. And we also come home where we functioned very well in the division week 1, and then we got absolutely hammered in a primetime spot, which is just systemic of Kirk Cousins historically. The guy just can't play under the lights for some reason. We don't know why. It's psychology. He just doesn't get up for the moment. But he didn't. Again, and we watched that second half, Philadelphia bringing pressure on pressure on pressure. And Kirk Cousins, I mean, he could have been picked off 5 times in the second half. He was just throwing up blind prayers. And, he comes home. And again, you get a revenge game off last year, the super insulting loss to an 0-10 team. You get this team coming back off a really poor road effort. You get a strong line number, not official yet. Sunday morning, we will discuss this in more detail, but Minnesota is definitely a spot that I'm looking at here.
Yeah, no, that's facts right there. It's a good point looking at that, how they lost to the last year's team. You could argue that the Lions are even better this year, but the Vikings are as well. They got the new offense. I was real high on their offense. I liked what I saw, especially in the first drive. Now, obviously it's scripted, but I like what I saw versus the Packers. Who's not a bad defense, and then when you just look so terrible versus now we know Cousins in prime time, but still the defense was light years difference as well, and it seemed like they just couldn't do anything on offense. But I was looking at the game and like Eagles literally blitzing every fucking time. I'm talking about they sending everybody against his ass. Yeah, that was tough there to watch, man. But did have a little some on the Eagles though. But yeah, tough one. I can see the over cashing. You make good points about the Vikings there. In theory, it's a bounce back spot for sure. The Lions are like on a day extra rest, maybe coming in a little fat and happy as well. When the Vikings coming in pissed off, those are the situations in the NFL I like to take. One team fat and happy, other team coming in pissed off. That's what I like to take, my guys. Let's go over here to the streets of Indianapolis here, Shark. You got this is probably the Bengals and Cowboys game last week. You got the Chiefs. I hate to say that they don't come to play or they won't care about this game, Shark, but why would the Chiefs care about this game? So I'm saying somewhat of a sandwich spot as well. You've already started off with 2-0, coming off a huge game, divisional game. Now you face the Colts. This game basically just, what if the Chiefs are kind of doing like NBA, Shark, where they know what it takes to get to the Super Bowl and they just kind of take certain games off in the NFL like week to week? What do you think about this game?
I agree with you 100%. I'm officially on 1 unit at +7. I wouldn't talk you guys off 5.5. And you really look at the schedule spot. This is one of the biggest black hole schedule spots for the Chiefs all year. You have to go back the previous 2 weeks. Of course, they opened on the road, blowout win week 1 at Arizona. Came home, divisional game against the Chargers, who always plays them extremely tight. A win, a non-cover, of course, a backdoor cover in a really tight window there by Justin Herbert. But regardless, a big win within the division. Now, you get the Colts on the road. Your next 4 games after the Colts, prime time at Tampa Bay Bucs, prime time Monday Night Football against the Raiders in the division at home, 4:25 marquee afternoon Sunday game against Buffalo in a rematch of last year's 42-36 historical amazingness type of game. And then you get the Niners on the road before your bye week. So you get 2 wins, you get a divisional win, you play the 0-2 Colts on the road in their loud-ass stadium indoors in Indy. And then you get primetime Bucs, Monday Night Football Raiders, Bills, and Niners. This is the definition of a sandwich trap spot. I wouldn't be surprised if they lose this game outright. You also look at the other side of this game. We talked about this last week and the previous week. Matt Ryan comes over here. His first game with Frank Reich, first game with a different franchise. He opens on the road in the division at Houston, who's scrappy and effective home in the division, and had Lovie Smith game 1, an inspirational coach getting his guys ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
They tied. Then they have to stay on the road, and they go to Jacksonville, who's also an upstart, younger team. Trevor Lawrence campaign 2, Doug Peterson, ex-Super Bowl coach, very much revamped. And road divisional, going outdoors in the heat, is not Matt Ryan's niche or wheelhouse at all. And they played really abysmal football. They got shut out. And I made this comment off the record to a few people I talked about. I think that's actually the bottom out in their calendar. And, when you look at baseball, oftentimes they talk about the dog days of summer. It just has to come in August because it's based on fatigue in your schedule. Football's not that way. You could have your absolute low point of your entire season in week 2. And I'm pretty sure that's what we just saw. The Colts absolutely bottomed out in Jacksonville. That is not who they are. That is not their quality. They have an above-average defense. They have an ex-Super Bowl quarterback who's still in his late prime. They have a great running game. Now they come home, first home game of the year, short line, Kansas City, trap spot, all boxes checked, 1 unit official. We're going 5.5 on here. I do have 7 as of 3 days ago on Twitter. Let's fucking dominate.
Yeah, I like it. And I think if you're taking the Colts here, you're expecting them to win the game as well. Like, simply put, this is one of those definitely 0-2. So what? They're basically 0-2. They're 0-1-1, but this is what I look for in NFL. You want to take the 0-2 versus 2-0. It's the definition of complacency versus must win. Who am I going to take in those situations psychologically? I'm taking a team that's out for blood and know damn well that they have to win this game to save their season. It's not over, but if you go 0-3, you got no aspirations of making the playoffs or definitely not the Super Bowl as well. So, and this is a team that has high expectations this year. I know Ryan's an older quarterback, but they thought they were getting an upgrade at the quarterback. He is used to playing in the dome. They do come home for the first time, Shark. You are right. It's all boxes checked. I know this just seems like a spot where the Chiefs don't play their best game, in my opinion. Coming off a huge game that you really needed. It's a tough one for you, man, because like I say, we know that the Chiefs they don't really care about this game. It's not a divisional game. It doesn't really help it helps if they win, but it's just like, why go all out in this one when you really want to go all out in those next few games, Shark? So there's really good points on this one. That's why the Colts, people scratching their heads. I used to be the same person. What the fuck going on with this line, man? The Chiefs are going to be the most public bet team this week, guys. And it's not saying that it's not going to cash, but I would not like to be on the most public game of any week, guys. This definitely feels like Bengals versus Cowboys last week as well, especially where you're almost having to lay that touchdown on the road. I see the Colts winning straight up. That's the only way that I play it. Like, I don't even think – I usually always take the points. This is one where I really just go Colts money line, because if they're going to be in the game, if they're going to cover this game, that means they win it going away probably by double digits. That's the way I see it happening. It's an absolute must-win game for a kitchen sink type of game. Heavily lean to the Colts there, plus the 5.5 or money line. Let's go over here to the streets of Tennessee. Shari, we got the Raiders land 2 versus the Titans. The Titans, we knew that they were going to take a huge step back. This team has holes everywhere, if you ask me. Don't necessarily like that the Raiders are coming like flying across time zones, but it's early in the season. Shouldn't really matter. The Raiders have a lot more upside to the Titans, Shark. I hadn't taken this yet, but I definitely have it written down on the short list. I lean Raiders here, my guy. Heavy lean.
Yeah, this game for me is just really difficult stuff. We just discussed a demoralizing loss with the Cleveland environment. Look no further than the loss that Las Vegas just put on record in their home stadium against Arizona. That is demoralizing at the highest level. You had the game in hand. You had one play in the fourth quarter, one stop, and you win the game. Not only that, you come back in overtime, you have possession of the ball, you fumble, you recover, and then 2 plays later, you get another fumble, return for a touchdown, walked off. The fucking Cardinals sideline is running down the sideline like a high school team that just won the championship. I mean, this Raiders team not only gave the game away, melted the game, but they got insulted on their own field by the Arizona Cardinals. Celebration. And, people had been complaining in the media about the Giants celebrating too much after they won week 1 in Tennessee. I said that was all right. New coach, first win, Giants getting off the schneid early season. The way the Cardinals celebrated, I mean, if you're the Raiders, you're looking at these guys like fuck you guys. Like, I want to see you guys in the playoffs. And, of course, they probably won't. They'd have to get to the Super Bowl for it, which probably won't happen. But They got absolutely insulted by the Cardinals. They will be pissed off here. My only issue here is purely the Titans at 0-2 off a blowout loss. The Titans are not yesteryear, as we mentioned before. No A.J. Brown, no Julio Jones, Derrick Henry, another year of wear and tear. And, of course, Mike Vrabel, probably honestly not that great of a coach. I think he got away with murder for a couple years because his raw talent was so deep on the offensive side of the ball. I wouldn't talk you off the Raiders. I honestly just really don't like the game.
Yeah, it's a tough game. This is one, guys, I'll be honest with you. This is one that I looked at this before this week even. So it's not good because the Titans look so bad against probably the best team in NFL. They look so bad, and they had to sit their starters based in the fourth quarter so they don't even risk injury. But I think it's a really tell just to show you how far the Titans have fell down this year. When they were like the number one seed over there last year in the playoffs. No, this team is not making the playoffs this year. And I like to take them in a bounce back spot as well. But you know what the problem? The Raiders are in a bounce back as well. The Raiders are better than 0-2, guys. I said this, that they were going to be very high in the market. They're going to be a huge public team. What do you see? 0-2 straight up and ATS first couple of games. I know the last one they were up. That goes to show you how it's so hard to be up a bunch versus a team, 20-something-0 at halftime. They're already thinking that it's a win, and you basically don't come out with the same intensity. This time around, like Shark said, now they're heading on the road. I think that's good for them. Raiders are winning this game, man. I'm sorry. And I never say this, Shark, that they're just a better team. The Raiders are better than the Titans, guys, literally from every facet of the game, if you ask me. Coaching, they do have a new coach over there, but the Raiders are winning this game. I don't even know why I'm doing all this shit. The Raiders, they're going to cover this shit versus the Titans, my guys. Let's go over here to the streets of Washington, Shark. We got the Redskins getting 6.5 points versus the Eagles, my guy. Huge division battle here. You got Wentz going up against his old squad. I really think that's a hidden narrative here. It was kind of part of why I was on the Lions so heavy last week. Maybe a little look ahead. Wentz looked terrible. Now, I'm not betting on the Redskins, but there is a narrative that people should know about in this game.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, this is tough. I mean, if you go back to last year, Philadelphia did get them in the last matchup, 20-16. They got them twice last year. You get a double revenge game, but of course, you do get a roster reboot with Wentz coming over here. It's hard to really cross-reference last year's calendar with this year, I believe, based on the new roster. But you said it. Last week you wanted to fade the Commanders on the road off the home win against Jacksonville. And now, theoretically, based off of that, you would want to buy the Commanders at home. Of course, Philadelphia has been highly impressive in weeks 1 and 2. They were up huge in the fourth quarter and did melt against Detroit and not cover. But nonetheless, they played a very representative game. And then, of course, on Monday Night Football, just an absolute blowout against the Vikings and Kirk Cousins. So you just blow out a team. It was a huge high. And the Philadelphia crowd was raucous. They were thrilled. They were happy. I believe it was Darius Slay was over there hyping them up. Big thing. The whole thing was going down. Huge high. Really. Huge high. Big letdown coming here. And, you go back divisional road game, first one of the year. They did open outside of division 2 times. It's a rivalry game. These games are always tighter, particularly in the NFC East. The NFC East is very well known historically for having very, very tight competitive divisional games. I do think this is a Washington spot. I'm not on it officially right now. We might get there on Sunday, but I would definitely advise you guys to be careful with the Eagles here because there are going to be some ebbs and flows. The Eagles are not going to just demolish every single opponent on their calendar.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I don't think I don't bet on Wentz. I'm super low on this guy. I feel like he's a turnover machine. This could be a game. This is like Baker Mayfield faces his old team. Like he's gonna turn up. Don't be surprised if Wentz looks like fucking prime Wentz that went to the Super Bowl with the Eagles. You see what I'm saying? When you face your old team, it can kind of sort of like turn back the clock. You see what I'm saying? So that wouldn't surprise me. But obviously the Eagles are gonna win this division. I think they're even gonna win this game. But it could literally come down to a field field goal either way. And I don't like the fact, obviously, Washington coming in the pissed off team, and they're the home dog. Eagles coming off a high, and they have and they're at the rest disadvantage in theory. But yeah, they were talking a little bit too much shit. I'm right there with you, Shark. They are the better team, but the better teams don't always win. They definitely don't always cover. So we'd be surprised to see the Eagles win, but I also wouldn't be surprised to see the Washington Redskins cover this game, my guys. Let's go over here to the going to the streets of Chicago. We have another narrative here. We got the Chicago Bears laying 2.5. Line was at 3, come back down to 2.5. Narratives don't always matter, but they can sometimes. Lovie Smith with the boys going up against his old team, going back to the streets of Chicago here, Shark. Do you think it matters?
No. If I had to take a side here, I would be wearing this hat. I'm wearing it because I just felt like wearing it. But regardless, let's talk about it. We got the Chicago Bears, beautiful little fitted here on a suddenly not so casual Thirsty Thursday. But when you really look at what's going on here, more so than Lovie Smith, I think this is just a really fraudulent team that's somehow 2-0 ATS. And, you're looking at this league right now. Who would have thought? Texans are 2-0 ATS, Falcons are 2-0 ATS, and Lions are 2-0 ATS. This is supposed to be the three worst teams in the league, cleaning up a 100% cover rate combined through 6 games. This has to stop somewhere. Why wouldn't it stop in Chicago? Chicago comes home off a blowout in Green Bay. That was supposed to be a blowout. When you see a -10 line in the division, it was a blowout. It was a bounce back for Aaron Rodgers. Now they come back, and you saw what they did in week 1 outside of the division against San Francisco. 19-10 win. Completely suffocated Trey Lance and the Niners. The Niners are far, far better than the Texans. And you get the Texans off a cover in Denver, which, of course, burned us last week. But this has been discussed, and we'll discuss it for a half second. That was much more so the Denver Broncos just being historically horrendous at scoring the football on the 1-yard line. This is not the Texans playing a great game. They scored 9 points. They also had a pick to open the second half in Denver territory. They kicked a field goal to get to 9-6. So you got Denver just handing them that cover. Very similar to what Denver did in week 1 at Seattle. So is Houston that good? No. They caught 2 opponents in a row that were very lackluster. Now they go back-to-back on the road. Tough travel off altitude. Now Chicago, historically tough travel, Soldier Field. This is a strong line. This is probably the only game all year Chicago will be favored.
Thanks.
It's telling you a strong story. And again, we're doing a loose casing of the board here. This could get official for me on Sunday morning. I like the Bears side here.
Yeah, no, that's facts. This is definitely probably the only game they're going to be favored in. I'm not laying points with this team all year, guys. And just like I say, this is one where Lovie Smith going to a team that fired him, basically, I do think that he'll have a little extra pep in his step. We talked about him being a good motivator as well. I think the Texans can hang with the Bears. I wouldn't be surprised. Let's just put it this way. That's why I don't bet games like this. I wouldn't be surprised if either team won, to be honest with you. It is tough for the Texans coming off that road game versus they come off an overtime game, a tie. Then they go and play in high altitude. Now they go to Chicago. I do think that week 1 was an outlier. The way it was raining there. And they had Lance first start on the road as well in the wild. Hostile environment. It was literally raining cats and dogs there. No, I'm not a buyer on the Bears this year at all. They could be a lot better than I personally have them graded, but Bears, I'm not interested in betting them all year, guys. So don't take it from me, but I lean Texans there, especially at the 3. I agree with it coming down from 3 to 2.5. Let's go over here to the streets of LA here. We got the Chargers laying 7 versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. It's real tough to talk about this game without knowing the status of Herbert. He did kind of practice the other day, not throwing the ball though, and Chase Daniel did practice with the starter. So not sure to do this game, Sharp.
Yeah, I think the best look here is probably under 47. You go back a couple years ago, Gardner Minshew did go in there and play against Justin Herbert. The game, I believe, got into the 60s. You see this line coming in at 47. They're telling you a lower story. You saw what the Jaguars did last week, of course, suffocating defense at home. Week 1, reasonable defensive effort as well. And this Chargers team is a good defense. Obviously, Brandon Staley coming in here with a defensive mind out of the Rams from 2 years ago. But I think the under's the best look. I think 7 is probably sharp. The Chargers are not going to blow them out in this game, theoretically. This is definitely a letdown spot. Of course, you have Justin Herbert with the injury. He seems like he's grinding through it. The guy's obviously a gamer to the max. This line is a little short versus historical averages. I lean Jacksonville. I lean under. I think 7 is very sharp, however.
Yeah, that's a good point there. This is a game I see the Chargers leaning on their defense, right? We talked about with the defense, got Mack over there. You still got Bosa. You got a really good secondary as well. Derwin James over there. This team is like low-key fucking loaded on defense, to be honest with you. And so what I actually think they should do, I think they should rest Herbert. They can win this game without him. I think Chase Daniels is serviceable, run the ball. And when the player's out, you see what happened with the Cowboys. The defense like, all right, let's fucking go. Now, let's go. Let's go win this game, my guys. I think they could win this game with their defense. Simply put, I'd be leaning. Like I say, if Herbert's out, this line's going to plummet even more. So I say you wait. If he is in, it'll only go up to about 9 where it was at first. But I think that Jags coming in off a high as well. They are a little bit better this year. They do have some upside, but when you're coming off one of your first wins in a while, I know they won versus the Colts last year, but now you're traveling from East Coast to West Coast as well. I'd be looking at maybe Jaguars team total under here. I don't bet every game, don't force one either. But if I was betting some in this one, I still think the Chargers can get it done. And I do think they're a top-tier team in this league, and I think their defense here is just lights out. Whether Herbert's in there or not, the defense will step up here. I'd be leaning Jags team total under in that one. It's just the way I'm looking at the game. Let's go over here to the streets of Tampa Bay here. We got the Bucs. Land 1.5 points versus the Packers here, Shark. You got a little revenge spot for the Packers here. Bucs, I'll be honest, like their defense looks really good. I am not impressed with the offense whatsoever. I want to take Packers here. I don't want to have too many plays this week. Really one main game that I care about, but I'm close to the Packers, guys. Very close.
Yeah, I mean, you make the comment 2 years ago, NFC Championship game, Tampa Bay on the road, 31-24 win, 26, something like that, regardless. But a big revenge spot for sure. However, Aaron Rodgers just does not travel well to Florida. It's just psychology. For whatever reason, doesn't play well in the heat. This is Tampa Bay, it's Jacksonville, it's Miami, it's whatever it is. But just in his career, he has a poor record in Florida. Again, this line is sharp for a reason. Right around a pick 'em. This game will be very, very tight, I think. As you mentioned, the Tampa Bay Bucs can't score the football. Obviously, it's a receiver issue to a certain degree. It's an offensive line issue. In training camp, when I believe their center went down, and it was well documented, it's going to be very disruptive. Their flow's off, their blocking's off. Ultimately, I think Mike Evans is suspended for this game, which is going to handcuff them even more. You would theoretically want to take Packers 2x revenge. Brady's first season, I believe, it was 38-10 down there for the Bucs. And then, of course, the NFC Championship win 2 years ago. You get double revenge. But, again, Rodgers in Florida is a tough, tough ask. I really have no angle on this game. I think this is a real toss-up for me.
Yeah, they lost to the Bucs past couple of times. Like I said, I could see it going either way, but the way that I see it going are the Packers. This is a 3:30 game, so maybe not. Obviously, it's still going to be hot, but by the time the end of the game, it won't be as hot over there. So I think it's a lot different when you're playing their early game. That's literally when the sun is damn near the highest. It's beaming. When it's getting to that 3:30 over there, 3:30 hour, it's starting to go down. Be interested to see what last year's game when they played 2020 when the start time of that game was. So be interested to see what happens in this one. It's a tough game. I usually hate betting toss-up games, but I do feel like the Packers are a little bit further on. I'm not even sure Brady should have came back, to be honest with you. Yeah, last time they played there, it was the same time. They got smacked 38-10. They started out 10-0 and then gave up 38 unanswered points in that one. So be interested to see what happens in this one. Obviously, those are two totally different teams, but the Bucs team is struggling. And I also think that they were happy if Lattimore didn't get thrown out that game, they probably lose to the Saints as well. I think they're a little fortunate to win that one. Let's go over here to the streets of Seattle here, man. Backwoods shit. This line has moved though. It's actually got popped by sharps. The sharps are all over the Falcons in this one. I'm not saying that it's the right side. I'm just here to bring you the info. Line opened up at 3. It was hit down to 2. It's now in the past, and today it's been hit down to pick or the course of last night. So it's a bunch of big bets coming in on the Falcons here. Also, inside info, they did stay on the West Coast, so they didn't fly to Atlanta and didn't happen to fly across country. They did stay on the West Coast, so I guess that's good. What do you think? Can Seattle win this game?
Yeah, I mean they could. This is again, it's a toss-up. It's a pick 'em. You know, the reasoning behind a pick 'em is it's a coin flip. Basically, theoretically. It's a tough spot. I mean, you get the Falcons here. They're 2-0 ATS. They just backdoored the hell out of the Rams. That was obviously a bit of a high to a certain degree to cover and come close against the Super Bowl champs. Now you stand on the West Coast. That helps them from a body time standpoint. I'm not sure how much that helps them from a mentality standpoint, though. When you're basically on vacation for a week and you got to go play in Seattle, they don't have their home practice field, their facility. They're really in hotels and they're just out there. So again, no travel is nice. Body time is very centered, but maybe on vacation to a degree. And you come home, Seattle just got hammered on the road. You had that last week, a great take. It's a bounce back for Seattle theoretically. You get two real bottom feeder style teams. You get Geno Smith, the ultimate journeyman. You get Marcus Mariota. I think people thought originally he would be better in the NFL. He's definitely a journeyman at this point in his career. You get two journeymen on a pick'em line outside of the division with both teams running a little too clean ATS. Seattle 1-1, Atlanta 2-0. This is tough stuff. I mean, you say sharps are all over it. I would love to hear why, to be honest, because I don't see it at all.
Yeah, probably just fading Seattle. Like I say, this is not one that I bet, but I pay attention to all this shit moving. Like I said, I'm always staring at this Wages Talk odds screen. I literally have it up on my big screen. I can literally see when shit's getting popped. Like if someone's getting popped right now with heavy money, it'd be lighting up in red because you'd be seeing the book is literally changing their numbers. So it's not something that a lot of people care about, but it's one of the things that I may use it in one of the 7 tools that I use to handicap game. I may look at some stuff, but it's a tough game for me. I wouldn't be surprised if either team won. I would lean Falcons. I do feel like they have the better offense. At least the teams seem like they're playing hard. One thing I can really say about this game, the old Falcons that I know, 28-3, they're fucking giving up. It's simple. They came all the way back and really had a chance to win that game. Like if Ramsey doesn't pick that ball right there, the Rams probably lose that game. So that shows me something when a team can come back down, especially from a heavy halftime deficit, especially when you're already ass and you're used to losing. They actually tried to come back and win. I think this is a winnable game for the Falcons. I don't bet games like this, though, guys. This is shit bowl. Let's go over here to the streets of Arizona, Char. We got the Cardinals getting 3.5 points versus the Rams. You talked about the Cardinals being so happy last time. I'd probably be fired up as well. If we came back and won in that fashion, I'd be pretty fired up, Shark. This is playoff revenge, though. I love my Rams. I knew they'd win the Super Bowl last year. This team has taken a huge step back this year. They've gotten older. They've lost a step. Stafford's not 100%. I'd like to hop on the Cardinals here, Shark. I'd like to, but I'm not so high on this team this year either.
Yeah, this is tough. We talked about this last week when we took Arizona on the road, but after starting 7-0 last year, which I think at this point just stands for itself, it's not really who they are. They had a heater. It's gone, whatever. So currently, as we look at this team is a 500 team, maybe slightly over 500, and they're just not a very good home team. They've really started to create this trend where they just lose home games in the division and outside of the division. Then they go on the road and they perform. And we don't know why. Again, it's the fascination of the human mind. There's inconsistencies that just make no sense sometimes. This team is not a good home team. And you get the Rams coming in here now 0-2 ATS at home going on the road. I think the Rams are hard to figure out. As you mentioned, you had them last year to win the Super Bowl. You nailed it 100%. Now it's hard to back up success with immediate success in September. And they have been lackluster. Of course, they got hammered in the opener against the Bills. And then last week, they get up 28-3 and just stop playing ball, which is not professional mentality. I mean, you got to close that game. Right. I mean, it's really unprofessional. So now they go on the road. I don't necessarily think the Rams are going to turn it up here. I think the Rams might not find it until week 6 or 7. But again, I'm afraid of Arizona at home. Arizona's been just terrible at home. There's just no way around it. So I really have nothing on this one.
Man, in theory, the Cardinals, which are 0-1 at the house, basically got insulted at the house. In theory, they are supposed to remember getting kicked out of the playoffs last year, 30-40-11. In theory, just the way I look at the game, doesn't always work out, guys. See what I'm saying? I always let people know that just because I have an angle or somewhere there doesn't mean that shit's gonna cash, especially based off that. It's just saying that there could be something to think about in this game. And so, in theory, you know what I'm saying? When you get kicked out of the playoffs, especially like that, they're supposed to come back with some. Now, we know the Rams, they lost their receivers, and it's showing. It's Kupp and everybody else. You double team Kupp, you see what I'm saying? And it's everybody else. That's what we've seen through the first couple of weeks there on offense. So I lean Cardinals, but I can't take it, man. I'd lean their way, but I don't have to bet that shit. So I'm not. Let's go over here. Last game up. Sunday night game, Shark. Oh, it's a tough one, man. I can make a case for both sides. I want to take Niners, still lean Niners. Broncos lame duck coach. I don't like the fact that the 49ers are one-dimensional now, if that makes sense. Now you basically just play the pass. You don't have to play the dual threat of Lance. Is he going to run or is he going to pass? We're doing option. Now you know Garoppolo's passing, right? The Broncos still have a good defense. They just hadn't really shown it, in my opinion. The offense, though, is the huge question mark, Shark. You like anything in this game?
This is one of those games where, one of the things that I really don't like when handicappers say, I need to see it first. It's actually one of my least favorite things when somebody says, I say, no, the whole point of handicapping is you're supposed to handicap it before it happens, and then you'll get in front of the movement. This is one of the first times I've ever said this about a team with the Broncos. I need to see it first because they're a bye team theoretically. They've laid 2 consecutive eggs. They've been historically awful at scoring. Their mentality seems to be very corrupted. There was a video that came out with Russell Wilson having to coach up the sideline to make just very basic football calls to help out the defense. It seems like Nathaniel Hackett is just not an NFL head coach. He got hired because his dad's name was Paul Hackett, and it's the NFL politics and fraternity stuff where guys just get hired because of a name. It's not really because of their merit, unfortunately. And of course, a lot of hires in this country are like that, and it is what it is. But this doesn't mean the guy knows what he's doing. And of course, you want to buy this because they should be a buy team. But sometimes teams like this are just completely corrupted, and they're unable to get over the hump. And of course, now with Jimmy Garoppolo back in there, weird environment where Jimmy, obviously ex-Super Bowl quarterback, decided he was going to be the backup this year, which is bizarre. I mean, most guys would say, hell with that. I'm going to go be a starter somewhere else. I'm not going to be a backup. Well, it worked out for him. And of course, you don't want to see Trey Lance get carted off. But as the world works out, the universe works out, Jimmy Garoppolo is the starter now. So here he comes. He wins football games. There's just no way around it. And we don't know exactly why. Coming out of Eastern Illinois, obviously New England, it's Belichick. I mean, he was coached in the right way the first 4 years of his career. There's just no way around it. He's a professional. He brings a professionalism to the huddle. They play a solid style of ball with him. Again, you want to take the Broncos, but I think San Francisco probably would be my lean here.
Yeah, no, I don't want to take the Broncos. I want to take the 49ers here. I do get it where they could bounce back. They could look better. Look, so Hackett is calling the plays as well, Shark. He's not only the lame duck coach. So just picture this, not being ready for the head coach. There's a ton of shit you got to do. You're in your office probably before game, after game, off days, all this shit all night. And then on top of it, keep in mind, him maybe not being ready for that, then you have to call the plays as well, Shark. It's a fucking recipe for disaster. Until someone else calls the plays, I think we see more of the same from Denver. And Wilson's not helping out as well. You're supposed to be the offensive coordinator or the coach on the field. I'll say this again, when they come down to the timeout, he can call a timeout as well. You can't put all of this on the coach. He's the coach on the field, so we putting it on net. I think maybe Wilson he's on the down side of his career for sure, man. So let's see what happened. Look, even Ronald says, man, Russ cooked, man. Scott saying fade Hackett. It could just be that simple. It's 49ers or nothing there for me, even with the points of me saying that it's a lot better to prepare for them now. Still got a great defense. Probably going to get Kittle in here in this game as well. Sunday Night Football. I know everybody's going to be chasing, but yeah, it's 49ers or nothing for me in this one, Shark. That's the show, my God. Let's get to some picks over here, my guys. Let's get to some picks now. Break them off with your official plays, Shark. Let them know what you like, my guy.
Absolutely. Tonight, we're going straight to Cleveland. Road locker room, Pittsburgh plus 4.5, 1 unit. Full details before, but I will reiterate, there are different types of losses. When you win a game, basically, like Cleveland did last week, but you don't come away with a win, it's like you put your whole life into a project and then it gets stolen from you in the last second. That doesn't trigger passion to quickly do it all over again. It actually triggers you to want to just forget it and come back a month later, maybe finally rejuvenated. The bounce back from that type of loss is not a thing. I'm telling you guys, if you get hammered 40-0, you were insulted by your own quality. And not only that, within a blowout, you didn't exert a lot of emotion and physical energy within the game. You got blown out. You didn't even play. So you come back refreshed and angry. It's the polar opposite of a blowout loss. You want to buy off a blowout loss, not a loss like Cleveland just went through. Pittsburgh plus 4.5, 1 unit. And on Sunday, we're dropping 2 plays now. A couple more will drop on Sunday morning. Of course, 10 a.m. Jay's on at 11:30. Panthers plus 3, 2-unit special. Top spot on the whole board for me. And we are on the Colts. I got 7 early in the week. That's why you follow me on Twitter. I put these plays out when they come out for CLB purposes in the NFL. It's very important. However, 5.5 is not your wrong number. As Jay mentioned, this could be a money line spot. It's a dead zone spot for Kansas City. 2 wins, Then they go to the Colts in the Dome, and they have 4 straight big-time games after this. 3 top plays, 9 words of lifestyle. Rather, we've got the water. Jay, a fucking pleasure as always. Beautiful Thursday night. I'm so hyped for this season. We will start up NBA, of course, October 18th. Thanks to the chat. You guys have great looks, great angles, great energy. Always, Jay, close them out, and let's dominate.
Definitely great energy in the chat, man. I want to say thanks again to everybody. We appreciate your time coming through with a whole hour with us, man. If you can, hit the like button and share. We're here giving out free picks. For me, week 3 NFL, man, trying to keep it going. I'm on the Bengals in the trifecta spot. Took them first quarter minus the half, first half -3, and also first half team total over 12.5. And we're on the full game as well. Personally, I'm 4.5 or to 4.5 to 5. I'll go official with a 6. If the Bengals don't win this game by a touchdown or more, then they'll lose outright, and anything is possible, guys. So I always say don't go too crazy on this game. This is the NFL. Literally, the star player can get injured any play, my guys. So we always trying to cash, but bet accordingly. Don't go too crazy on these games. Bengals trifecta spot, my first ever trifecta spot in the NFL. First half team total over 12.5 as well. Honorable mentions: Raiders -2, Ravens -3, Texans plus 2.5, Packers plus 1.5, and the Colts money line. Those be honorable mentions. Only 4 officials for me right now, my guys. I'll go through this more in detail Saturday night / Sunday morning, and we'll probably add some official plays for sure. But for right now, 4 plays, 1 game. Let's go 4-0, one time for the one time. We appreciate everybody for tuning in. Hit the like button, subscribe. Let's go to Smack City. It's us against the bookies, my guys. We out.